I can safely assume that. Or maybe the writer is actually the president of Royal Dutch Shell. In that case, I'm very honored, but it's not very likely. If the writer is, then hi, Mr. President. I'm very honored to be assessing your writing. Okay. Oh gosh, we're on. Oh, you're here. Well, that was unexpected. Thanks for coming here. Welcome to IELTS Juice. We were about to assess an essay today, so welcome. Let's do this together. In many countries, paying for things using mobile phone or cell phone, British, American, apps is becoming increasingly common. You might do that already on your phone. Does this development have more advantages or more disadvantages? So, we're all familiar with this topic. So we buy things online. You know, it's no big deal these days. It was a big deal back in the day, but now it's fine. So many people do that. There are, of course, some advantages and some disadvantages. But the question is, this development has definitely advantages and disadvantages. Which one is higher? Are advantages higher than disadvantages, or the disadvantages are higher than advantages? So that is for us to answer. How do we answer that? Well, I usually have that approach. So you have two strategies to follow. One is to focus on quantity. So you might say there are 3 advantages versus 2 disadvantages. So you can clearly see that 3 is larger than 2. So there we go. There are more advantages than disadvantages. Done. Or you can play with quality. And you might say, yeah, there are 2 advantages or there are 2 disadvantages, or maybe there are 3 advantages and 3 disadvantages. And you mention them. But then you need to somehow say that, okay, but these 3 are super important or life-changing, while these 3 are, well, yeah, if you have them, it's good, but it doesn't affect your life so dramatically. Well, these 3 will dramatically change your life. Or something, again, something related to quality. Maybe for you, these 3 have an effect on children. And for you, children is a much more important topic than other things, than, I don't know, the business or the economy. I mean, you can decide, but basically you can put it into either category, either either quantity or quality. That's my suggestion. Basically, IELTS wants you to prove your point. You shouldn't just say, yeah, there are more disadvantages. Thank you. No, that doesn't work. You need to provide some proof for the IELTS to convince the IELTS test that, yeah, there are, for instance, more advantages or there are more disadvantages. It's our job to do that. Let's move on with the candidate's response. All right. These days, it's very common. This is fine. It's common in many countries. This is a slip. It's fine, really. In many countries, to use mobile phone apps for payments, the advantages to outweigh the disadvantages. Okay, somebody has watched or has read too many headlines in English. You usually see that. For instance, the president is to visit the factory. You know, that means the president is going to visit the factory. And that becomes a headline. But here, we are not going to write about any headlines, and we are not at New York Times newsroom. So the advantages outweigh the disadvantages. That's fine. So that's the writer's belief. The advantages, where are my hands? Okay. The advantages outweigh the disadvantages. And in this essay, we're going to talk about that. Let's see. On the one hand, paying for stuff. I'm not a fan of this word. This is very informal and it's not good. You probably want to talk about, you probably want to say shopping items or goods. I mean, necessities, things like that, instead of stuff. That's very casual. It's not a good fit for the essay. Via cell phone apps can reduce the cost of community. Excuse me? Paying for stuff via cell phone apps can reduce the cost of community. Commuting, commute. Oh, wow, we are, wow. Yeah, okay. The cost of commute. As purchasing necessities, as purchasing necessities, you just need to pay attention to the spelling. I'm putting the spelling over here. Yeah, are becoming involved in going to the street and reaching the, I don't need to, the shop, reaching the shop. It's a specific shop, right? Or why is it so dramatic? I feel I'm in the middle of war and there are armies in front of me and there are landmines and I need to cross the enemy's frontiers and reach the city and liberate the city and put my flag on the top of the highest building in the city. Why is it so dramatic? You basically get to the shop, which can increase the cost of fuel for transportation, which can increase the cost of, no, it doesn't increase the cost of fuel. You know, governments increase the cost of fuel, or the private companies like, I don't know, Royal Dutch Shell or other countries that export or fuel, or they provide fuel at gas stations, they do that. This doesn't increase the cost of fuel. It increases your cost, or the fuel cost will be added to your monthly costs or your monthly expenditure. That's the message the writer wanted to say. The writer is not the president of a country or the Royal Dutch Shell, for instance. So I can safely assume that. Or maybe the writer is actually the president of Royal Dutch Shell. In that case, I'm very honored, but it's not very likely. If the writer is, then hi, Mr. President. I'm very honored to be assessing your writing. Anyway, this cost could be lowered when people could, there are too many coulds. Basically, I can live with can. I don't need could. This cost can be lowered when people can buy and pay via mobile phone apps. And this way is more time consuming. I need a comma here. This way is more time consuming. Okay. The writer is relying too much on our knowledge. I don't see proper development for time consuming. How? Uh, yes, you don't you save on the cost of fuel, and you also save on time because you have it delivered to your address. Okay, I'm just saying the writer is relying on our knowledge. So I am doing some of the writing in my head. I cannot see that here. I am coming up with some information in my head so that I can explain it to you. In addition, the pace of life, that's a good word, the pace of life will increase. How? People wouldn't have to present in a shop. People, again, I don't need would. People do not need to be present. I need a verb here. In a shop for purchasing, for shopping. Purchase is a transitive word or a verb. It's a transitive verb. Shop can be intransitive. Please look them up. If you don't know what I'm talking about, this is the first time you hear the word transitive and intransitive, there is a lesson in the description below. It's a 1 or 2 minute read, but basically whenever you check a verb in a specific, you also need to check if the verb is transitive or intransitive. And a transitive verb cannot be used like this alone. You have to have an object, which would take a long time. I don't need, it's not hypothetical. You can just say it, which takes a long time. Thus, I need a semicolon before this. People can save this time by paying for expenses via cell phone apps. Okay, people do not pay for expenses. I mean, yeah, again, expenses are very generic. It includes your gas bill, your school tuition, or your son's or daughter's school tuition fee. Maybe you have a student's loan to cover, or maybe you just have a mortgage. Those are expenses. We're talking about shopping. And let me go back to the topic again. Paying for things using mobile phones. It doesn't specify which things, but in this scenario, we are focused on commute, and we talked about shops, not banks. You can pay your mortgage in person. You can commute to a bank and pay physically by being present there, your loan or your mortgage. But since I don't see that here, then I wonder why we all of a sudden we now cover all the expenses in one place via cell phone apps. Okay. Moreover, individuals could experience healthier lives, because plural, because of being at one place for payments. What does that supposed to mean? Like a party? Or like a queue? Gathering? I don't need this period. As individuals do not have to go outside for paying, and they can be more secured because they will not expose themselves to accidents or burglary by anonymous people. Why do we transit from one topic's development into another's agenda? The development of one is not done yet. We just very fast switch to another topic by just saying and, or as individuals would not have to go outside and they could be more secure. And look at this sentence. First of all, I don't know the role of this sentence. Is it just the beginning of the explanation of an agenda, or this is something new, or it's just a sentence all by itself? I believe that's the third one. They will not expose. I love the word expose. I love the word accidents. I love the word burglary and anonymous. I love all of them. But I feel like the sentence is squeezed in with pressure to just fill in some vocabulary. I can see that. It's just a pity because this can all by itself become one element. Like, yes, if you pay by a cell phone app, you don't expose yourself to a lot of these issues, namely accidents, traffic accidents, burglary, because you're not at home. So somebody can, break in and take away your stuff, take away your furniture, take away maybe some valuable items. You may keep some cash at home or jewelry, whatever it is. This could be better. This could be better developed and framed. On the other hand, so we talked about the advantages of paying, and the advantages were basically you don't get into accidents, you are more comfortable, you don't have to find the shop and get there like a soldier at the battlefield. So yeah, and the cost is, of course, yeah, if you don't pay the cost of fuel, the general cost will be reduced. Fair. On the other hand, this approach for payment has drawbacks. Okay. Firstly, people can endanger their confidential information, which is available and obvious when entering this information into cell phone apps for payments. Good. Security is one aspect, one drawback. This is because people might use wrong apps, which are insecure. Another problem, maybe a little bit more development. I understand the whole concept, but I'm still expecting more. Another problem is that users can expend more money, spend more money. Expend is not that common. And again, the context is not suitable for the word expend. Normal English suggests that we use spend more money. Expend is also, I believe, is more towards resources. Money is a resource, but when we say spend, you spend money and time while you expend your resources. I'm just saying this is not the best fit here. Can spend more money compared to when they buy things traditionally. As purchasing stuff, these are not very helpful words. By mobile apps are more convenient. I wish we didn't have this period here and then a semicolon here. As a result, individuals can buy anything which is not important because paying for it is done by clicking some buttons rather than going to the shop. Okay, so we have also two disadvantages here. One was, well, one disadvantage is that there are some phony apps. And the second one is basically you might spend more because they keep paying and they don't feel that the money is leaving their bank. So they're just numbers. And because of that, they might buy more things. Yeah, I understand that. I understand, but I am doing a lot of heavy work here. I am writing sentences in my head to make sense, the sentences that are not here. I am the reader. It's not my job to write, but I am writing and filling in the blanks. In conclusion, I believe that the advantages outweigh the disadvantages. I can see this. You see the size of this paragraph versus this, plus there were 3 items here and there are 2 items here. Because drawbacks can be solved by increasing the knowledge of people towards these apps, and people can practice, I need a comma before I can practice controlling themselves when purchasing important products. Okay, I wished we mentioned a little bit about this thing in the previous paragraph by mentioning that instead of saying things and stuff, we could say for just some, I don't know, buying groceries or some normal items. We could be more specific. And then, yeah, and then this would make a much better sense to be a proper conclusion. I feel there is a bit new information in the conclusion, which I don't like. I don't like to see new information in conclusion. That is not the job of a conclusion. Basically, it means you are going to conclude whatever you talked about already, not presenting me with new information. 324 words. Let's look at the band descriptors. Okay. Yeah, I can clearly see the areas. As for one, we had 3 advantages for paying on the phone and versus 2 disadvantages. They were both, I mean, the advantages were physically larger than the disadvantages. The number was higher. Again, both are contributing to the fact that I'm convinced now that paying on the phone is better. So it has more advantages than disadvantages. And even the disadvantages were demoralized, diminished, or belittled, meaning they were shown in an insignificant way. There were elements that I needed to improve. There were instances that I wanted to see more development. That's why in some cases it was overgeneralized and needed more development. The strategy, the structure of the strategy is correct. The framework is fine. The sentences and the agenda and the main ideas there all of them need better improvement, better development. As for coherence and cohesion, the information is presented logically, not sequentially, and I totally understood the structure, as I just said. However, I had multiple faulty transitions from one sentence to another. You saw me correcting full stops with commas and joining sentences and reading them together. Referencing issues, we had many. Paragraphing, again, I didn't like the conclusion. I saw one sentence that was just all by itself, and I couldn't understand whether it's a major supporting sentence or it's a minor supporting sentence. I saw these elements in the paragraphing that basically convinced me that this doesn't go beyond 6. As for lexical resource, I saw the range and the range was sufficient. Yeah, there were attempts to use some less common vocabulary, but not always successful. So that was the case. And the majority of errors were from here. In other words, I didn't see many errors. And those errors were the majority of those errors happened in the uncommon vocabulary area. They did not affect communication in that case, but the grammar affected communication. So I had multiple coulds that shouldn't be there. There are multiple woulds that they shouldn't be there either. And again, there were complex structures that weren't executed correctly. And there were many grammar and punctuation errors together. So this doesn't get any better score than 6. It's a very good sample for you to know the structure of a disadvantage, advantage type of essay. Enough me talking about advantages and disadvantages. Thank you for watching. You know, your essays, letters, reports are going to be your representatives. Make sure that the reader doesn't have to do the writing in his or her head. Make sure your sentences are clear enough and they develop the whole topic very well. So whatever you say, don't rely on the reader to just do the writing. Remember, it's you who writes. The reader must just read. On that note, take care.